We don't want open borders. We don't want people to come and go without a legal system of immigration. However, let's not forget our immigrant roots. Let's not forget the generosity of the American heart, because that's really who we are as a people.
This Hispanic Heritage Month, former United States Senator Mel Martinez gives us his take on current immigration policy and how his journey as a Pedro Pan child led him to become the first Cuban American to serve in the U.S. Senate. Plus, we explore the growing influence of Hispanic and Latino culture in our local communities, from the economy to the arts. Stay with us as we dive into your South Florida. Hi, I'm Pam Giganti. Thank you so much for joining us. And welcome to the all-new Your South Florida, where we choose one important topic each month that's having an impact on our local communities. We'll dive deep into that issue and take a look at it from several angles. In honor of Hispanic Heritage Month, we shine a light on South Florida's changing Hispanic and Latino communities and their influence on everything from politics to the arts and the local economy. Former U.S. Senator Mel Martinez's immigrant story is like so many here in South Florida. Born in Cuba, he was one of the more than 14,000 unaccompanied minors brought here in the early 1960s with the help of the Catholic Church through Operation Pedro Pan. It was the start of a path that would lead him to becoming the first Cuban American to serve in the United States Senate. He was also my first guest on our premiere episode of Your South Florida back in 2017. Earlier this month, I met up with Senator Martinez again to hear more about his journey from Cuba, his take on current immigration policy, and the powerful influence of Hispanic culture here in South Florida. So here we are circling back around.
Glad to be back.
Thank you. And talking about Hispanic heritage and Hispanic pride. So tell us what it means to you to be a Cuban American.
I mean, as a Cuban American, it means a great deal to me to have lived in a country that is free, that offered me that wonderful opportunity to live in freedom after having been in a place that lost freedom, that lost the right to be free and to live your life as you choose, but to have a big bad government that is essentially controlling all facets of life. So it means the world to me to be in a country that's free and also to maintain my heritage.
Why do you think it's so important to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month?
It's important for the next generation to know that there is a heritage, to know there is a history. I mean, look, first of all, we have to recognize that we Hispanics were in this continent long before the British people ever came, especially in the state of Florida. In St. Augustine, of course, you know, that was the cradle of American civilization.
Founded by Spaniards and
right.
Ponce de Leon coming in.
Juan Ponce de Leon. And so we have that rich and wonderful heritage. But then again, there's certain uniquenesses about who we are and the way we live and the way we order our lives and our families and the meaning of family. And for young people growing up in a country where there's so much, such a strong American culture, and a culture that has to be embraced to be successful, it has to be embraced for us to continue to be America, it really is important to know that you come as a part of a heritage that is rich in tradition, that is rich in history, and therefore you should be proud of who you are. And at the end of the day, we're all part of this human race, and we're all part of this great American experiment. And the more we know about one another, the better we are.
And talk about it too in the context of President Trump's immigration policy, which has really divided a lot of people.
When I was in the U.S. Senate, we worked really, really hard with a Republican president in the lead, President Bush, to try to reform our immigration system. But all of that went by the wayside, and now we are years later, a decade later, and we still don't have a solution to this very difficult problem. Unfortunately, it's become a part of our politics, you know. I'll tell you something that breaks my heart, is that we talk so much about a poor family who was, someone was murdered brutally by an immigrant. We highlight the fact that it was an immigrant, it was a criminal. That's not to say that we shouldn't have security at our borders. Nowhere is there a place for there to be an open border or for there not to be a secure border. We've got to know who's coming and going in and out of our country. That's part of our sovereignty as a country. But we also need to recognize the contributions of so many immigrants, not only Hispanics, but of many other heritages, that have made the contribution to making our American history what it is. You know, one of the things that has always touched my life is to think about the people who helped me. I was one of the Peter Pan children.
Yeah, walk us through your story.
I was 15 and I brought out of Cuba in the care of the Catholic Church, Catholic Charities here in Miami. And I came without my family. The church took care of me, but then ultimately I was placed in a foster home. And I live in Orlando to this day because Catholic Charities ultimately, after bouncing around a little bit for a few months, sent me to Orlando to a foster family. That foster family remained family with me for the rest of their lives. They're wonderful, charitable people who took me into their home. They weren't a wealthy family. They were just average Americans. And so they showed me the hospitality and the welcoming spirit of Americans, that bit about wanting to help others. That's very American, you know? And so when people come to our country looking for shelter, looking for freedom, looking for a better life, the life of many of us, myself much included, has been touched by the kindness and generosity of an American. And it's all of us pulling together, you know, that wonderful family helping me achieve, through an education and everything else, to live my American dream.
There were so many Pedro Pan kids that came over, so many families like your family that sent their children ahead in hopes of getting out and having that opportunity for freedom. What was the sense back then? Was it pretty ubiquitous among all these families that were taking in young people that this was the right thing to do?
Yeah, well, you know, there was an awful lot of people through the Catholic Church and other religious groups who answered the appeal, these kids need a home. Yeah. So I'm sure there were some who were thinking, oh gosh, let's take care of our own. Well, I understand that, but there's room in your heart for more than one, you know? And I think that's what these families felt, was that we can help our own, but we can also reach with a helping hand to these immigrants in trouble. And so out of their generosity and their kindness allowed me to flourish and succeed in life, which is it's a pretty awesome thing, really, what they did when you think about it. And they did it over and over for over 14,000. It was impactful, and it was a welcoming hand of Americans. We go through transitions in our country's history, where there's this nativist sense of people who you know, just want to think about America, and you know, if you don't belong here. Well, America's a crossroads of the world, and again, I stress that we don't want open borders. We don't want people to come and go without a legal system of immigration. However, let's not forget our immigrant roots. Let's not forget the generosity of the American heart, because that's really who we are as a people.
Talk about how unique South Florida and Florida is because of our location, and so many of those 14,000 came and stayed here in Florida. How has that really shaped, you know, our state and this community?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because we're a microcosm of what the country is becoming. You know, it's a country of mixed cultures and mixed people. South Florida, I mean, what a wonderful place where cultures are welcome, where people can come and feel very welcome as an investor, as a foreign visitor. Sure. This is a place that they can say, wow, this feels like home. I can do business here. And that's been terrific for our community. It's been terrific for our state. I mean, how many foreign investors have invested in this state that have then generated jobs for Floridians? And how many pieces of real estate in South Florida are owned by foreign visitors who just want to have a piece of the American real estate market in order to secure their lives and to visit, and because they enjoy it and they like it. I mean, I think that great experiment that was accidental in the 60s when so many of us from Cuba ended up coming to Florida, particularly to Miami, you know, it was something that was very disruptive, and it was like, whoa, how is this going to work?
Sure,
you know?
yeah.
But I think in the end, we've kind of sorted it out. The truth of the matter is that Miami has become the crossroads of the Americas and the business capital of Latin America.
Because there's so many Puerto Rican people too they fled after Hurricane Maria,
right.
and a large majority, have come into the Orlando area. Kind of, how is that shaping life there?
I mean, over the last 20 years, there's been an enormous.
By the way, they're not immigrants; they're American citizens.
That's right.
You know, they just come with their culture and the language.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. They have our culture, our language, or we share a culture and a language.
Right.
but they are Americans. They don't need a passport to come. They just fly.
Right.
But so many of them did come after that horrible Hurricane Maria. But before then, there had been a pretty steady migration into Central Florida, Puerto Ricans. And you know, here's the amazing thing. This is America at its best. Central Florida was very welcoming when this tragedy struck, and a lot of doors were open, and you know, a lot of things were done in order to ease the transition. One of the things we cannot forget in terms of this whole immigration conversation, or even Puerto Rican migration, is just the whole issue of employment and the fact that so many immigrants, and in the case of Puerto Ricans, so many Americans who relocate to Florida, have been able to fulfill a tremendous demand for employment that our tourism industry and other industries in Central Florida or throughout the state have required. And so when you talk to business people, they say, what is your biggest concern? Very often in Florida, what you'll hear is finding people to work. So as a result of the migration the United States has always enjoyed, orderly and legal, we now are a younger country than most of our other developed, industrially developed countries and peers because of the immigrant force, the labor force that we have.
There's also an immigration issue, some would say, with people who came to this country from maybe South America to go to college. They're well educated. They want to work here in the U.S., but they're not American citizens. You have a lot of people with great brain power who want to stay in this country and continue to make it great, but they're not a citizen.
So one of the dumbest things we do in our country is that in our phenomenal and fantastic universities, we educate a lot of people from other parts of the world. And then once we've educated them, we could dearly love to have their talents put to work in our country.
Sure.
But we tell them, okay, here's your diploma, and get on out of here. That doesn't make any sense, you know?
Yeah.
And so we have a need for educated, particularly people trained in the STEMs, science, technology, and mathematics, that our country, you know, needs to fill for our high-tech industries and all of that. For those people, we certainly want to be a magnet, want them to come, want them to stay once they've been educated here. There's also a tremendous need at another end of the labor spectrum. We need agricultural workers in our vegetables and citrus. We also need people in our tourism industry at a less educated and prepared level, but also a workforce that is needed. So those two spectrums, we need people in both of those. We desperately need people in both of those. There ought to be an orderly way in which we can have a guest worker program, in which we can also say, if you've been educated here. In other words, as we reform our immigration system, we ought to make it in a way that is smart for America, you know? That is compassionate at times where it needs to be, but that it also has a selfish streak in it about what is good for our country.
And some would say, too, what you were saying, a smart plan, are the dreamers.
Oh, yeah. And these are young people who lived here all their lives, who've gone through our schools, who are, you know, tremendously talented, many of them, and through no fault of their own, they're here. And, I mean, how does it make sense to start deporting people? We can't deport everybody that's here illegally, by the way. I mean, I know there's a great reticence to what is called amnesty. Well, anything other than deportation is amnesty, and we can't deport 11 million people. It's not going to happen. Even Trump has not tried to do that. I mean, kind of tried, but never successfully. Sure, you can
The
deport.
optics are really bad, too.
Well, right. I mean, that's kind of not who we are and all of that. Look, I have no patience or compassion for people who commit crime. And I think those people need to be out of here, go back with.
And no one does.
And no one does, right. That makes no sense. And so that should be enforced to the letter. But beyond that, I think we need to begin to think about this problem a little more intelligently and a little less emotionally. I mean, I came here at the age of 15. I'm a classic immigrant. I learned English. I got used to the way life is here, and I became an American.
Right.
And you see it here every day in the streets of Miami. In every main street, Florida, you see that transformation. People who come to this country become a part of that greater whole, which is the great melting pot. And so immigration, frankly, in legal and orderly way, should not be feared. It's part of who our country has always been.
And Miami-Dade County has long been considered the gateway to the Americas and a mecca for mostly Cuban immigrants fleeing the Castro regime. But a shift is underway, with more Hispanics and Latinos from a wide range of countries moving northward and choosing to settle in Broward and in Palm Beach. In Palm Beach County, the number of Hispanics is large and is expected to continue to grow over the next decade. On the forefront is a network of organizations helping these residents adjust to their new lives as they also hold on to their roots while building an inclusive and a prosperous community.
When you walk into a Bodegon supermarket, you're going to find a lot of things. We will have a meat department. The bakery comes with the Mexican bakery, Cuban bakery, Colombian bakery. We have a money transfer section that all the Hispanic and everybody can send money to their own country. We want them to feel like they're walking into stores that they used to walk in their own country.
Colombian immigrant Carlos Ortiz is the co-founder and owner of El Bodegon Supermarkets, a family-owned chain founded in Palm Beach County more than 20 years ago.
Well, El Bodegon has been growing since we started in 1998. To this point, the Hispanic community, which is the most of them that we cater to, because of the growth in the Hispanic community, we've been growing at the same time, at the same level.
Palm Beach County today is what Miami-Dade was in the 70s.
It's a growth that doesn't surprise local attorney Lazaro, a Cuban immigrant. He has been part of the community for more than 30 years.
It is a growing metropolis, and people are attracted because of all the things that this beautiful community has to offer.
According to the University of Florida's Bureau of Economic and Business Research, Palm Beach County's population is expected to grow in 2030 by nearly 15%, or more than 1.6 million people. During that same time period, the area's Hispanic population is expected to swell by nearly 40% to almost 500,000 people. As co-founder of Latin Quarter of West Palm Beach, Lazaro is helping new residents adjust by providing outreach and resources to this burgeoning community.
Sometimes our people don't know that something is available, and even if they know it's available, they don't know how to reach it or walk through the process to be able to connect with what they need. So that's what we do. We accommodate them, provide them access to information. We work with over 125 organizations. All of them are nonprofit organizations. And we have become the information resource center for all of them.
The Latin Quarter works in partnership with the Puerto Rican Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of Palm Beach County. Led by President Juan Pagan, the chamber helps bridge the gap between large and small businesses through networking opportunities, helping to provide tools for success.
We have big business like FPL, Florida Power Light. You know, we have the Palm Beach County Sheriff. We have El Bodegon Supermarket. You know, but also we have small companies or small businesses like El Matamonchis. We have to make sure that those businesses are successful, that they comply with, understand and comply with the regulations that are required to have that business, and where we have a big business that is willing to help and be a mentor to those organizations, that's most welcome.
As part of the chamber, El Bodegon's owner, Carlos Ortiz, sees the chance to team up with smaller businesses as a win-win for everyone.
We have a lot of restaurants, and they're around the area and the community. They want to come and do some business with us. And the way we help them is to make sure that they get the best products, to make sure that they get the best prices. I think if they grow, business will grow, a small business will grow, and they will grow with us. We'll grow with them. Because if they're selling, if they're doing business, we're doing business with them. And the community is growing big time now.
The latest research by the Stanford Graduate School of Business shows that Hispanics are starting companies more frequently. But many of these businesses are also much smaller and bring in less revenue than non-Hispanic companies. 91% of Hispanic businesses are family-owned and are largely financed through personal savings with help from friends and family.
You've heard it said that it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it also takes an economic ecosystem to help our future entrepreneurs be successful. So you can have the best empanada in the world, but unless you come in contact with an enterprise like El Bodegon, who will help you place your product, make it available to the community, and then individuals like Juan Pagan that can take you and say, okay, you need a system of accounting. That's why a community is so important.
It's not about the chamber, it's not about us. It's about how do we work together and make this a better community with all the neighbors we have.
Focusing on building the next generation of leaders from within the community is also a top priority.
We see a younger generation of Hispanics, in the community, that they are professionals, they're educated, they're also the other ones that are working, contributing, and helping their neighbor, helping the communities.
Everything that we do at the Latin Quarter of West Palm Beach is for the future generations, to have someone to look up to have a positive role model so that we can continue to grow as part of the community that is the United States of America without losing our Hispanic heritage. The hope is to be able to grow organically and harmoniously, for people to come together and understand that we need to be a community that both businesses and families can thrive and no one is left behind.
And be sure to save the date. The Chamber's annual Fiesta de Pueblo and Business Expo will take place Saturday, January the 11th in 2020, next year at Green Acres Community Park. Admission is free for this family event and features a Three Kings Day celebration with games, food, and live entertainment while highlighting resources and services available to the community. For more information on the Chamber and this event, visit our Facebook page @YourSouthFL. Well, another celebration of Latino culture is the Day of the Dead. In Spanish, it's Dia de los Muertos, a tradition that originated in Mexico and is now observed across Latin America, honoring deceased loved ones while celebrating the living all at the same time. Here in South Florida, the 10th annual Florida Day of the Dead celebration in downtown Fort Lauderdale takes place on November the 2nd, and preparations are already underway. We went behind the scenes to meet some of the artists there, the musicians and puppeteers who helped to bring this festival to life.
Pixar and Disney a couple years ago created Coco. And so a lot of families now understand the importance of the Day of the Dead tradition. If you get the kids into the back of the SUV and take them to downtown Fort Lauderdale on November 2nd of this year, which is a Saturday, they're going to experience and be right in the middle of that film, where they have the chance to experience giant puppets, folklorico dancers, the traditions of ofrendas in the History Center, and all of these calaveras, sugar skull painted faces.
It definitely is not like another Halloween where it's just a holiday that kind of comes and goes. It's an important part of the Mexican community and honoring those that have passed away. So this festival is very close and near and dear to my heart, because I've been able to really immerse myself again in the Mexican culture and heritage that I grew up with, but also have been able to teach my daughter and now my son about their heritage as well, which has been, for me, the most important part of this whole thing.
What Day of the Dead does, in my opinion, is it allows the community to come together in such a way that we can share something that is uniquely human as far as we know.
This year we're working with the Florida Mexican Festival, and we have over 150 folklorico dancers who will be performing on one of our main stages.
El baile que yo hago es el folclore mexicano. Es un baile que tiene influencia europea, y esos bailes son que representan parte de la República Mexicana en diferentes estados.
It's really, really beautiful, share with everybody right here, because everybody, we are one on the universe, and everybody is for the dead and for the life, everybody with the same. So it's really, really interesting and beautiful to share.
build the gigantic puppets made out of paper mache. And they are the ones that we put out in every year in the parade. Our new puppet, she's a goddess, and I'd rather not to reveal much about it, but it's going to be very interesting.
Death is not something to be afraid of. Life is something to be celebrated. And that is what, whether you're in your 90s or you're not even 9 years old, that's what everyone who comes to this festival has a better understanding about. Memory for the dead, party for the living.
Very interesting celebration and growing in Fort Lauderdale, as we said. So we'll have more information on the 10th annual Florida Day of the Dead celebration, all on our Facebook page at Your South FL. It is a festival for the whole family, young and old, so check it out. Thanks again for joining us this month. We hope that you'll join us again in November as we take a closer look at some of the barriers facing female veterans. Until then, make it a great several weeks, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.